Today on the channel, Best of Season continues, as today we're counting down my top 10 Super 7 Ultimate figures of 2024.
And the spirit of Ultimate Warrior will run forever!
Welcome everyone, Kyle here, and welcome back to the channel for another top 10 year-end best of list. In today's video, we're counting down my top 10 Super 7 Ultimate Edition figures of 2024. And an interesting year for Super 7, like a lot of the other toy companies we're counting down things from this year. Highs, lows, and all points in between from a lot of figures from Super 7. Now, I've had a few figures break on me this year, which is never a good thing. We've had some absolutely fabulous things that only little Kyle could have dreamed of finally in action figure form. So a very fun year for Super 7. It'll be interesting where Super 7 goes next year, as we've seen a lot of new stuff put out there by Super 7. Of course, the reactions of the world, the ultimate figures of the world, but also the new deluxe figures where, I guess for a lack of better wording, dumbed down versions of the Ultimates. We've seen Thundercats, we've seen King Diamond, we've seen Conan the Barbarian. Have to imagine we'll maybe see some more of that stuff in the future. Once again, it's getting the most out of your molds, it's getting profit, it's getting new avenues like Target stores involved with some Super 7 stuff. So really a company in the flux of some changes, it feels like, with Super 7. But a lot of fun properties over there at Super 7, of properties we don't get figures from anybody else. And I know there's people that root against Super 7 and root for them, like all the different brands out there. But you know, it's one of those things, you don't like it, you pass on it, that's the way it should go. I never actively root against any company, and there are people that seemingly root against Super 7, and I always do say, there's so many figures we would never get if it wasn't for Super 7. So you gotta always remember that a little bit. Like Silverhawks fans out there, there is Silverhawks fans. They want those guys. They want those Silverhawks figures. Without Super 7, they're not getting that stuff. So it's a little bit of a double-edged sword from time to time, as we know. But of course, this list is a top 10 list. You know what that means. We're going to start at number 10, work our way to number 1. Number 1 being the best figure from Super 7 in 2024. And guess what? My list, 100% right, because it's my personal list. But guess what? Your list could be 100% right. Put your list in the comments down below, and you can be 100% right as well. It is my version of the best Super 7 figures of 2024, and we're going to kick it off, of course, at number 10. All right, we begin the countdown, of course, at number 10. And I have to imagine anybody doing this top 10, they got to put these somewhere on the top 10, and I'm putting them at number 10. And where are we going to? We're going to the Ultimate Simpsons line for Kang and Kodos. Now, obviously, two separate figures. I'm lumping them together. Gotta get the most out of your molds. Of course, very similar style figures, so pick your poison. If I only have to choose one, just either one works for me, as they are the same in my brain. But very cool, very gigantic, massive, massive figures right here. Very, very awesome. And one of the biggest tragedies, probably the biggest disappointment of 2024 for action figure collecting for me, was the Simpsons Super 7 line coming to an end. Of course, we see them from Jakks Pacific. Check out those reviews on the channel now. But man, oh man, this line had some legs. I don't think they started off the line the way they probably should have. Probably should have got the family member, the core family members out there, at least one per series, a deep cut per series, an ancillary character per series. Unfortunately, we'll never know what could have been in that line, but we got some fabulous figures, and I'm going to tell you a little spoiler alert. This isn't the last time you're going to see a Simpsons Ultimate figure in this countdown, but they gave us some of the most amazing figures this year and some of the worst figures this year. There's a little Easter egg for the future. But definitely love these two. Very cool, very gigantic. I am here for a big figure. A shelf killer if there ever was one, but Kang and Kodos, so cool from the Simpsons line, comes in at number 10. Feeling fine at number 9. And number 9, we're seeing a pattern here. We go to the Super 7 Ultimate Simpsons line. Once again, this time though, we go for Radioactive Man. And this could be one of those ones where people say, hey, he should have been way down in Series 20, something like that. And I can't argue with that either. I think a lot of us would have rather had a regular Homer Simpson or a regular Marge Simpson over Radioactive Man, where we got this in the lineup here. But putting all that to aside, what could have been, what should have been, you just got to go with the figure itself. And Radioactive Man, of course, a superhero in the Simpsons universe, a fun-looking figure and just a very classic one. I love superheroes, love the Simpsons. Bringing it together right here, just a very, very cool feature. You get the multiple heads, all the accessories, the American flag, all the bells and whistles you would want with a Radioactive Man figure. Just extremely, extremely fun. Looks really cool and classic on the shelf as well. Just an all-around fun figure. And that's what the majority of the Simpsons line was, all-around fun. And Radioactive Man coming in hot at number 9. All right, we're feeling great at number 8, and maybe we should call this the top 10 Simpsons countdown at this point here. It's kind of the way it feels in a lot of ways, but number 8, once again, we go to the Super 7 Ultimate Simpsons line. We get Muumuu Homer, a classic Homer, and of all the different varieties of Homer, of course, if this line would have continued, just like the Playmates line and probably the Jakks ones coming up, you're going to get variants of the core family members. Homer Simpson, of course, being one of those core family members. And of all the different looks of Homer over the years, this is one of, if not the most iconic ones that people remember from the classic episode. Muumuu Homer, where he gained all the weight. Just so fun, so classic, so cool. A bit of a shelf killer once again, but a fun, fun figure. Now, of course, as usual, I would have rather had the classic Homer than this. But if we're going to get a deep cut Homer, this was the one to get, so I'm very happy we got this one after all right here. And that's why he's coming in at number 8. Deeper, deeper down the countdown, and once again, maybe this should be a top 10 Simpsons countdown. Maybe I should just change the name of this one here, and I swear, there's more than Simpsons on this countdown here. But number 7, once again, we're seeing a theme. We go to the Simpsons line. We go to Duffman, so a lot like Radioactive Man. Not a deep cut. He's been in many episodes, but obviously an ancillary character. But man, so cool, so iconic. Absolutely love the looks of this one. This one just slams off the shelf. You see it a mile away. So colorful, so bright, so vibrant. So Simpsons, obviously, as it should be. Just a fun, fun figure. And once again, the theme of these Simpsons figures, yes, we should have had Marge before this. Yes, we should have had some Barney. Classic characters are in a lot of different episodes before Duffman. But it is what it is, and what we got, this Duffman is fabulous. He comes in at number 7. Time for the number 6 spot in the countdown, and for the celebration of many out there, we finally move away from The Simpsons. How about that? We move into some other Super 7 properties, and one of my favorite, if not my favorite Super 7 properties is the music figures they do. And we've got quite a few different music figures over the span of 2024, going all the way back to 2023 as well. You guys might remember the number 1 figure of 2023 for me was the Lemmy figure from Super 7. So check out that best of list and all the best ofs of last year if you want a little bit of a refresh there. But here we are, of course, at number 6, and number 6 comes to us from no strangers to the Ultimate line. It is Papa from Ghost, Papa number 3, and a bit of a 2-in-1 figure, we'll call this one here, as you can get him in the full Papa regalia, or you can get the Song and Dance Man version. That's part of the fun with this figure here, is you can get the 2 different versions going on for your shelf. Very, very cool. Very iconic as Ghost in this day and age. I've said it before, probably said it in this review. I was a Ghost fan when they only had 1 song out. It was a cover of George Harrison, Here Comes the Sun. Spooky. Nobody knew who they were. Nobody knew what was going on. It was coming from deep Europe metal scene. I was very engulfed in that scene back in the day. Still am, of course. But man, it was so spooky, so different, so behind the scenes. It was so fun. And it has carried over. Obviously, the curtain's been lifted a lot on Ghost. They've had movies. They're very popular, very catchy songs all these years later. But very cool to get Papa number 3. And hopefully we get more Papas in the future from Super 7 in the Ultimate line. But a very, very fun figure. And I knew it had to be on my list in the top 10 Super 7 figures of 2024. We've hit the halfway spot. You got your list together. Put it in the comments down below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and my other YouTube channel. We got the 2024 best ofs coming at you all month long. You don't want to miss some of these as we celebrate the best of 2024. But now, here we are at number 5 in the Super 7 Ultimates figures of 2024. And I would say this is a bit of a sleeper figure here at number 5. I was very excited for this figure, but this one blew away my expectations. And I have to imagine these are going to be fairly hard to get in the future. Who are we talking about? Well, we're going to the Super 7 Ultimates Mighty Morphin Power Rangers for Bulk. Bulk coming in at number 5 here. Got his Triple H vest going on with the leather coat. He's ready to rock and roll, strut and stroll. But it was the first ever Bulk figure ever. Didn't happen in Bandai. Didn't happen in Hasbro for whatever reason. Can't believe Hasbro didn't make them. But very, very cool to get a Bulk and, of course, a Skull figure in 2024. And I don't know where the Super 7 Power Ranger line is going to go in the future, but I am very happy they got these ones out here. And dare I say, some of the best figures they put out from Super 7 were the Bulk and Skull figures here. So looking very beautiful. Bulk coming in at number 5. Here we are at the number 4 spot in the countdown. You can't have a Bulk without a Skull. And I do give Skull the Duke over Bulk. As I drop his camcorder here, looks just like him. These guys look amazing in these head sculpts. 2 of the best head sculpts of 2024 from all companies, but I do put Skull over Bulk. Basically a 2-in-1 figure with all the different accessories and different head sculpts. You could make 2-in-1 figures out of these. Would be very tempting if somehow these went on clearance for 20 bucks or something like that. Don't see that happening in the future, but man, these figures are great. Must have for any Power Ranger collection. Even if you're just collecting the Lightning collection, I feel like you could buy these 2 and try to smoke and mirrors them into your collection because they are an integral part of the Power Ranger universe, especially those first seasons, even beyond that. So Bulk and Skull, way overdue. Happy to see them in action figure form here in 2024. We'll see what happens in 2025 and beyond, but this could be it. And if this is it, you better pick them up because Bulk and Skull make it the countdown here at number 5 and, of course, number 4. We're down to the final 3. Can you believe it? The final 3 Super 7 Ultimates of 2024. And number 3, we return to a line we've talked a lot about in this video here. For number 3, we go back to the Simpsons Super 7 Ultimates. We go to one, Krusty the Clown, one of the most iconic characters from the Simpsons universe, and just a fabulous, fabulous figure. Looks like Krusty the Clown. There's no mistaking this for anything else. Beautiful accessories, of course, with the nice soft goods robe. You got the drink, you got the microphone, you got Mr. Teeny, his monkey. There isn't a whole lot more you'd want out of a Krusty the Clown figure. Just A+, very cool. You can hear his voice just looking at this figure. Just an amazing, amazing figure from the Super 7 line. It just makes me think of what could have been if that line would have had legs into the future. Part of me is happy it is canceled because, hey, my wallet's saving a lot of money and I'm saving a lot of space because these are fairly big figures, especially compared to the Playmates or the Jakks counterparts. Makes a lot of sense to not have the space for all these guys, but it would be a hard line not to be a completist in, a fun line, but it is done. It is on ice, they're saying, but I feel it is done, but we'll see what happens in the future. But man, happy we got this Krusty the Clown figure. So good, in fact, he comes in at number 3 on the Best of 2024 countdown. Down to the final 2 Super 7 figures of 2024, and this figure, I believe, came out very early in 2024, and it stole my heart from the get-go, and unfortunately for me, I had to buy 2 of these. As you guys know, I have an action figure collection, kind of. I'm dabbling in action figures, but very rarely does a figure jump off my shelf in the middle of the night. I usually pose them, have them just right on a stand, of course. But unfortunately, this guy did jump off a shelf for me, and he did break his arm off, and I was so devastated, I rebought this figure. That's how much I liked this figure. I knew I needed him complete. I can't just super glue that arm back. I needed to get a new one that worked perfectly, and that's exactly what I did. So who's coming in at number 2? One of the best figures of 2024, in all honesty, for me. A very heavy metal style figure. We're going to the Thundercats Super 7 line, and we're going to Mongor. Man, oh man, nightmare fuel if there ever was one. How did they think this was okay for children back in the 80s? Really looking like a goat man, aka the devil. You got the big old scythe here with the flames on it. Just a scary, scary dude. Gonna put fear into the hearts of all the children and everybody from Thundera, there's no doubt. but man, oh man, is this a beautiful looking figure. And even if you're not into Thundercats, you could have this guy on display on your heavy metal record album shelf, something like that. He just screams heavy metal. And of course, we did get Minotaurs from, of course, Super 7 this year in Slayer. Unfortunately, they didn't make my top 10 list here. Very cool to get those, though. But this Goat Man, he takes that Minotaur to another level. Just straight heavy metal in action figure form. And obviously a Thundercats villain. So there is a lot to like with this one here. Absolutely love this figure from the get-go. Absolutely love it now. That's why he's coming in at number 2 in my top 10 Super 7 figures of the year, which means there can only be one. Who is number 1? Well, stay tuned. Here we are. We've landed the number 1 Super 7 Ultimate figure of 2024. Once again, get your list together. Put it in the comments down below. Put it in order. That's the hard part. That is the fun part. Make sure you subscribe to the channel once again, as we got tons of best of 2024 videos to come, so stay tuned for those. But here we are at number 1, and I'm sure a lot of you guys, and especially you gals out there, have probably guessed what number 1 is for me. I wear this guy on my sleeve every single day. Huge fan, one of the most biggest impactful people in my life, I guess we'll say it. I've spent a lot of hours of my life following this guy around, going to his concerts, seeing his things. Heck, went on 2 different cruises with the man, of course, once upon a time. What are we talking about? Well, Super 7 Ultimate Lemmy Part 2 is what is the number 1 figure of the year for me. Now, of course, Lemmy Part 1, number 1 figure last year for me. So we're seeing a bit of a theme here. But I will say, I gotta be honest, this figure not as good as last year's. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, this year, of course, is a lot of reuse, a lot of we've been there before. And that makes sense. You got to get the most out of your molds. That first one will always be special because it was the first one. Now, this one, we got some new things along the way, but a lot of stuff was reuse, and you can imagine that there. So if I had to compare the two, last year's going to be over this one. This guy's going to have a tougher fight in the best of all figures 2024 figure video than the last Lemmy did, that's for sure. But man, still a must-have for me. Had to buy multiples of these of my collection. Love what it represents. Bring on all the Lemmy figures. This is playing all the hits right here for me. You knew I had to have this in my collection. And there's probably a lot of you watching this video said you knew this would be number 1 from the get-go. And guess what? You were 100% right on that. But still a fabulous, fabulous figure. For whatever reason you missed out on the last one, pick up this one. It is truly a must-have. There's no doubt about it. It is the Lemmy Super 7 Ultimate version 2 taking the number 1 spot. But what's taking your number 1 spot? What's taking your countdown? Once again, put it in the comments down below. Like and subscribe. Hit the notification to this YouTube channel, my other YouTube channel. Patreon for all the early access. ProWrestlingTees.com. Support the channel. Pick up a t-shirt. Of course, _Kyle_Peterson on Threads and on Instagram. SirPaul64 on the X. And newly on TikTok, check me out over there. So for Super 7's Best of 2024 list, I'm Kyle. See you guys all real soon.